So next up, podcast listeners, we have the dumbest bill in America. Do we have a lead up, Mr. Producer?
Of course.
Here it is. And it's the dumbest bill in America. And the bill is no stop signs for bicyclists. That's right, no stop signs for bicyclists in California. So in California, if this bill passes both chambers and you are on a bicycle and you approach a stop sign, you can keep riding your bicycle through the stop sign. Even if you see a car approaching the four-way stop sign and you precede the car coming from the opposite direction, you can still run through the stop sign. What could go wrong? I don't really know what could go wrong. So Tasha Boerner Horvath, she is the assembly member. It's really Assemblywoman, but in California, she calls herself an assembly member. She is Tasha Boerner Horvath from District 76. She put this bill in, and here is her biography. Tasha Boerner Horvath was elected to the California State Assembly in November of 2018 and re-elected in November of 2020. She represents the 76th District, which encompasses Camp Pendleton, Oceanside, Vista, Carlsbad, and Encinitas in the San Diego area. Tasha is part of the leadership team in the Assembly, serving as the newly appointed Assistant Majority Leader for Policy and Research. She serves on the Joint Legislative Audit Committee, blah, 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 blah. Professionally, Tasha has worked for global Fortune 500 companies, nonprofits, and higher education institutions, meaning she's never really had a real job in the private sector. It's pretty, let's be honest. Tasha has, oh yeah, here it says, Tasha started a business designing sensory-friendly clothing for little girls. Sensory-friendly. I'm not even going to ask what that means. Tasha earned an MA in International Studies from Claremont Graduate University Institute of Politics and Policy. She received her BA in Political Science from the University of California, Berkeley. Tasha and her husband are the proud parents of 2 children. Very nice that they have 2 children, but this is what she decided to do. Out of all of the problems in California, out of all of the problems during the pandemic, she puts a bill in that allows bicyclists to not stop at stop signs. And so here's Tasha Boerner Horvath in 2019 on equity in sports. We couldn't find anything on her concerning this bicyclist, with plenty of articles, of course, but no videos talking about bicyclists not stopping at stop signs. So we pulled one out from 2019 from Tasha Horvath as she talks about equity in sports, not equality, equity. Here's the clip.
I'm honored to be joined by these amazing group of women, my colleague, Assemblymember Lorena Gonzalez, as well as some of the true pioneers and sports legends who've also become fierce advocates for equality, equity, and inclusion in the sports world, including Patty Paniccia. She's a law professor and co-founder of the International Professional Surfing. Sabrina Brennan, who is the Community for Equity in Women's Surfing, as well as San Mateo Harbor Commissioner, love commissioners. Kim Woozy, founding member of the Women's Skateboarding Alliance. And of course, my personal shero, Corey Schumacher, 3-time women champion surfer and gender equity advocate for many, many years.
Only in California, right? Surfer, gender equity advocate, but not just a surfer, you're a gender equity advocate, and not just a skateboard expert, but you're all about equity in sports. And so I couldn't help myself. It reminded me so much of that clip in Austin Powers where Frau Verbissene, that's what it is. She introduces Frau Unibrow, who's part of the militant wing of the Salvation Army. And so we have that clip because it reminds me of what you just heard from Assemblywoman Horvath about equity in sports. We have that clip, and here it is.
I have come to embrace the love that dare not speak its name. To my right is my lover. We met at the LPGA tour. Her name is Unibrow.
Of course, Frau Unibrow, she's like, she looks at you. But it makes fun of, Austin Powers there is obviously making fun of diversity for diversity's sake, among other things, of course. And when you watch Assemblywoman Tasha Boerner Horvath and talking about equity in sports, you think the same thing. Can we play that clip, not of Frau Unibau, but of Tasha Boerner Horvath again? Just to give you an idea of how absurd this is. I have to play this again. Here it is.
I'm honored to be joined by these amazing group of women, my colleague, Assemblymember Lorena Gonzalez, as well as some of the true pioneers and sports legends who've also become fierce advocates for equality, equity, and inclusion in the sports world, including Patty Paniccia. She's a law professor and co-founder of the International Professional Surfing. Sabrina Brennan, who is the Community for Equity in Women's Surfing, as well as San Mateo Harbor Commissioner, love commissioners. Kim Woozy, founding member of the Women's Skateboarding Alliance, and of course my personal shero, Corey Schumacher, three-time women champion surfer and gender equity advocate for many, many years.
That was her personal shero. I just had to ask our millennial here, Chris, our producer, what that meant. Shero. It's a hero, but it's a she, right? My personal shero, who's not just a surfer, but also is all about equity in surfing. So here's the Sacramento Bee about this particular bill. Bicycles. It's AB Assembly Bill 122, where bicyclists can continue to go through stop signs without stopping. It reads as follows. For bicyclists, there are few places more dangerous than an intersection. Nearly a third of bicycle-related fatalities occur at one, according to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. California lawmakers are advancing a bill that seeks to make intersections safer for bicyclists by allowing them to roll through them. Its backers say it'll work by giving cyclists enough momentum to get through an intersection quickly, while it creates predictable behavior for drivers to follow. I think when you make bike behavior predictable for cars, you make it safer for everyone, said the bill's author, Assemblywoman Tasha Boerner Horvath of Encinitas, California. But opponents, including bicycle safety advocate Pat Hines, say that the stop sign is part of the glue that holds together the social contract between cyclists and motorists. She argues that the bill will teach cyclists, particularly children, not to respect stop signs. We have to keep that social contract in place, Hines said. From 2016 to 2018, traffic collisions killed 455 cyclists, the highest rate of any 3-year period since the mid-1990s, according to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. The bill has already passed through the state assembly and now goes for consideration by the Senate. What the bill does. Existing law requires anyone operating a vehicle, including bicycles, to stop at a stop sign at the entrance of an intersection. Assembly Bill 122 would instead require a bicyclist, when approaching a stop sign at an intersection, to yield the right-of-way to any vehicle that have entered the intersection or that are approaching the intersection close enough to constitute an immediate hazard until it is unreasonably safe to proceed, according to the Legislative Digest. So after I read that, do you now know what the bill does? Exactly. The bill basically is trying to micromanage every aspect of human life. Clearly, ladies and gentlemen, clearly, if you are an individual who wants to bicycle and you want to teach your children how to ride a bicycle, the first thing you teach them, other than ride your bicycle on the sidewalk, and of course, if you live in a town where you can't ride a bicycle on the sidewalk, which I can't imagine why that wouldn't be allowed, but if that's the case, and you want your child to ride the bicycle in the bicycle lanes that they're building all over the country, then you want to teach your child to stop at a stop sign. And it just kind of makes sense. But obviously, this bill is saying you don't have to do that. You can just go through the stop sign. And as more and more cars get used to seeing bicyclists just go through the stop signs, particularly like at 4-way stops, right? And the cars are all approaching, they see the bicycle and you're like, oh, let that guy go, because that's the new law. Let him just go through the stop sign. And I'm not saying that they don't do that already. Some do, some don't. But if you live in California, why would this be your issue? Why? California isn't even open yet. The schools aren't even open. And this is her priority, good old Tasha Boerner Horvath's Assemblywoman, because what did she call it? A shero. Yeah. She wants equity in sports, so she wants sheroes, not heroes. I guess you're not heroes. She wants sheroes. I'm sorry. It's no wonder there is a relocation of people from the state of California to other places, other states, other regions of the country, because you have these idiots who, first of all, who have run out of ideas for bills. And secondly, when they do find an idea, it's always about micromanaging every aspect of your life. And then you look back in their history and all they care about are these crazy things that have nothing to do with the way real people comport their lives on a daily basis. And that's the dumbest bill in America. No stop signs for bicyclists by Tasha Boerner Horvath, Assemblywoman of California, the real shero of California. And that's it for Mark and the Millennials. Thank you for joining Mark and the Millennials. This is Mark Fisher. Thank you to our producer, Christopher Hopkins. Check us out on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Parler, Rumble, and our website. See you next time.